Hey everybody, welcome to Ellis Mowers. I appreciate y'all watching the channel as always. This video, HIPAA sent me another maintenance kit, carb kit for a autochoke Briggs Quantum. I have a customer who has one of these and is having issues, and I'll show it to you. We're going to be doing that repair on site, but what it is it has a problem with, or the carburetor, the original carburetor on that Craftsman just seems like it was made very cheaply. There were some runs where Briggs just made some really cheap looking carburetors, of like the seals didn't seem like they were very good, and the metal was really light and things like that. So we might have an issue with the spark plug too. I'm going to change the spark plug while I'm there, because I have already tried to do a carb cleaning on this push mower, and it worked for the brief time that I was there, and then it ended up not working. So before we do this, I'll do like I always do and show you all the carb and everything that it comes with. It comes with a fuel filter. Usually we don't use fuel filters on these push mowers, but if you want to add one, then they add one to the kit. You got your O-ring and your gasket. The gasket here isn't necessarily as important on these because they don't house a primer bulb, because the primer bulb ones, that's how you get air to the primer bulb, is through that gasket. But here's the carburetor itself. I wonder if it has the HIPAA imprints on them. And again, HIPAA's been a good partner to the channel here lately. Over the past year or so, they have given me quite a few products for me to try out on certain machines, which is great. And this one seems to be decent. We've had good success, all but one of them. There was a Tecumseh carburetor that the bowl gasket leaked a little bit on. You can kind of see they feel like they're made a little bit differently than the ones that, like the cheap ones. They seem like they're made a little bit better. But you've got, you know, all your stuff here on the top for your throttle, choke right here. And so we're going to be putting this on that mower along with the new spark plug. I think that's gonna do it for that mower. I mean, it runs fine, otherwise it just won't pick up, and it's not having issues with black smoke. It's just the throttle just isn't picking up on it, which is kind of leading me to believe that it's not getting good spark or something along those lines, or something in the carburetor's jacked. So we're gonna go fix that. I just wanted to show you all the product reviews since HIPAA sent this to me. Again, if you have any, I'll have a link in the description below to their HIPAA store for this particular product, as well as there's a discount code below in the description to get 10% off your order. It's Ellis Mowers in all caps. So let me get on site and we will put this carburetor on and see how that mower runs with the HIPAA carburetor. Let's get started. Alright guys, well this thing's bit the dust, this carb at least, hopefully. We're going to find out if I can get it to run here with the new carb. I must have cleaned it good enough just for it to not work or something along those lines. So let me get it tilted on its side here. Yeah, all the cables and stuff look like they work. It tried to crank earlier, but there we go. Almost sounds like it may even have a little water in the fuel or something. That's basically what it's doing, is it will just barely start. So This is the best way I find to go about this, is just coming over here, and this one I've got to take off this top cover, which is just a screw. So I got to take this screw off here. Can leave the main cover on. Tilting it on its side just prevents the gas from going out of the mower. You could do this with it sitting up per usual, but I just do this because it seems like it's a little bit easier to access things. Should have 3 5/16 here. Just put these in a safe spot that you know you're not going to lose. And then you can take this cover off here. That reveals the 3/8. I'll show you what I'm talking about in terms of cheapness on these things here in a second. Oh, that's right, this one's auto choke, so I've got to do a 1/4 inch on the top there too. No biggie. It almost kind of feels like that plate's a little bit loose, but nothing that should matter. Take that 3/8 off. What we're going to also do next is, and it gets kind of bound up in there. Got 2 other things to take care of here. And one of them's the auto choke, which is that 1/4 inch on top, and the other one's that fuel line. We'll do that here real quick. So we've got the fuel line. Just take that off, and then since I've got it tilted like this, it's not going to come out the gas tank, which is good. Gas ain't gonna come out. It shouldn't come out. Trying to smell how that gas is. It smells okay. We're going to give this thing a lot of run time before I send it on, though. So then the last thing is this 1/4 inch for the auto choke, which we'll take care of now. You can just kind of leave that connected, because you don't want to lose that auto choke spring either. That's a thing. If you lose it, may take a little bit to get out. But we're gonna, let's see, take this off. Kind of smells a little watery. Like I said, we're gonna run it a little while, but I didn't really like this carb because it just feels cheap. This is one of them original Briggs carbs too. I cleaned it out once. It didn't work, or it worked very briefly. I'm wondering if she's got some bad gas or some water in the fuel or something. We'll test it out with this new carb. If so, we'll drain it out and we'll get some new fuel. I think she's got some in the shed here. I don't carry it around in my car whenever I come from work. But it ain't gonna hurt to put this on here anyways. So we've got the gasket, the O-ring gasket, which while I'm here I might as well. So we'll take that off for a second. You can put this new O-ring on right here. Boom, just like so. Then we'll go ahead and Put the linkage on. And that's ready to be put on now, which is good. Nice tight seal with the O-ring as well. We'll go ahead and put this 1/4 inch back on. Come on. Make sure you get it in the slot there, and then we can just screw it in. I should be able to screw it in as long as I can get it in the slot to screw it in. There we go. We'll just zip that back on real quick. Just be careful because you're drilling into aluminum and it needs to pivot. So you can see it's doing both, or it's pivoting like it's supposed to. So now we'll put on the back fuel line on, and pliers, just like so. And then we'll put the 2 bolts back on for the carb. This ain't a 10-minute job if you do it at home, guys. It's really not that hard at all, especially with an impact. 3/8. Just make sure your threads are in right. You can put in the impact fairly easily. We might tighten it up with a 1/4 inch socket just to make sure. Okay. Alright, so we've got that. Now we'll put on the little gasket and everything for the air filter. Yeah, this gasket's nowhere near as important as a primer bulb. It does serve the purpose, obviously, of keeping dirty air out, but it doesn't really serve any purpose aside from that on this particular model, just because the primer bulb doesn't act via air through that gasket. This is kind of an adaptation. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people would prefer the primer bulb. I mean, they're both fine. It's nothing like ridiculous about either of them. They're very easy to use, easy to work on. The primer bulb, sometimes you have to double gasket. The auto choke sometimes acts up with the little vein on the exhaust, but for every primer bulb that doesn't prime, I've seen a auto choke that won't work properly. So kind of tit for tat. I put the bolts back in here, and then we can put the air filter on, but I'm going to tilt this thing back down. I have put a different spark plug on it as well, just to see if it'll do anything, if that does anything, and it did allow it to pop off at least once, so that makes me think I may have a bad fuel situation here. That's good. I think I do need to back down the throttle just a tiny bit, just because I tried to work it a little bit when I was here the last time. All I gotta do is push that arm right there on this one. Sometimes some of them it's a little loop. This one's just got a little tab. And so basically we're just going to let it run for a minute and evaluate this thing. come back in a few minutes, make sure it's doing what it needs to do. Alright, so we're about, I don't know, close enough to 10 minutes. Still running good. Well, that's good. I'm going to let it sit for a couple minutes here and try and restart it and maybe run a couple of passes just to make sure that moving it around and whatnot doesn't cause any issues with it. But I think we've got it. As long as there's no bad gas or anything, it's possible. But I would feel like that it would have shown itself if that was the case. It may have just gotten a little bit of water in the bowl or something. You never know. And it could have been that carb because, you know, this thing's about 10 or 11 years old now, so got that going for it. Got that going on with it too, and it's one of the cheaper made Briggs carbs, which I don't really like that much. So hopefully this HIPAA carb will work, and I will catch y'all back at the house. We'll wrap this video up. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap this video up. I ran the mower for a good probably 15 minutes or so after I did the carb replacement, even put some gas in it that she had there, and ran fine. So like I said, I don't know if it was the spark plug, a little bit of water in the fuel, or water from where the mower has sat out in the rain a little bit, or the actual carburetor itself. If it was one of those three things, but I knew that it wouldn't be a bad thing to just go ahead and put a new carb on it, and so that's what I ended up doing in this case as well. Just because I cleaned it, it worked, and then it didn't. So, or worked briefly and then it didn't. So, another mower that's saved by HIPAA carbs. So thank you, HIPAA. I will put the link in the description below for the carburetor and for you have the discount code as well down there, 10% off using Ellis Mowers. Hopefully that works, and if you need any HIPAA parts, and work out pretty good for that mower. So thank y'all again for watching. Thank you again, HIPAA, for continuing to partner with me on the channel. It's everything that I've gotten from y'all has worked pretty well. I just had that one Tecumseh gasket that had a bowl gasket leak on it, which is fairly common, but man, I put like a dozen things on, haven't had a single issue with any of them. So thank y'all again for watching. Thank you to HIPAA for sending me the product and for me to trying it out on this mower. If you have any questions about this video, reach out to me, Ellis at ellismowers.com, or at ellismowers09 on Instagram and Facebook. I'll catch y'all on the next video. See you then.